Okay, friends, let's go over a few things we can learn when the machine, in this case, old Singer machines, are having sewing problems and the stitches are not turning out well. The stitches, so there are various things we can do to see if our machine improves. Otherwise, we would proceed to change parts or simply adjust it differently. Let's start with the upper thread tension part. So here we see how it brings its thread pull spring tensioner, which is quite different from the current familiar ones. Let's remember that these machines come with a black tensioner, which is the original one. When this tensioner is no longer available, you can replace it with this one that's entirely silver, and the thread pull spring is the same. The first tip we're going to see is that we usually have the tensioner on many garments, especially the thick ones. In some garments, we don't need the use of the thread pull spring as we're seeing in this video. We see that we're using it. So often our stitching varies. It either becomes tighter or looser. Depending on that, we can thread with or without the thread pull spring. That's the first tip. In all these machines, the thread pull spring is not indispensable. Many of these machines work just fine without it, without using the thread tension spring. In this case, it is being used because it is mostly needed for thin fabrics. For thick fabrics, it's not used as much. So keep in mind that if we thread with the thread tension spring and it doesn't start to change, and we move the spool and bobbin case, we can thread without passing the thread through the tension spring and test to see how the stitching looks. That would be the first tip. The second tip we are going to look at is the bobbin case. Here we have it. Let's move to another tip. We'll look at the introduction of the spool into the real box that we can see. We are seeing how the thread comes out. We must insert the spool counterclockwise, that is this way. Notice the thread goes completely opposite to how it comes out. It goes there. What happens with this is it tightens the thread, makes it straighter, and if we put it the other way around, we see that the thread will come out as it goes. The thread on the top part goes in the same direction, that is clockwise. So this might by moments leave the stitch looser, reduce tension, and vary the stitching. So ideally we should put it the other way around for more tension, making the thread straighter and not loosen it at moments. Remember that the thread should go counterclockwise. So what came out? And this spool turns in the opposite direction. There is more tension of the thread. The third tip we're going to look at is this button here on the top. Many people don't know about this function, which is very important, especially when working with thick fabrics on these types of machines. Many people wonder what this is for. It goes down, it gets stuck. So many people are unaware of this. This button helps us increase the pressure on the presser foot. Now remember, the thicker the fabric, the more pressure the machine requires from the presser foot, for greater pressure between the presser foot and the feed dogs. Now here, since the fabric is very thick, it will demand a lot of tension between the two to move the material. In lightweight fabric, very thin fabric, we don't need to use the pressure of the presser foot. So if we're going to sew, say G fabric, very thick fabric, the ideal would be to lower this part, right? We lower it and it stays there. This helps give pressure to the foot bar, and in turn, during transportation, the foot will have much more pressure on the fabric and provide better traction. When we don't need to use the unit in this way, we simply turn it to the side or the viewfinder, and no problem, it will lower and raise again without any issue. How many times? It would be the foot pressure. Okay, here we have the fourth tip. We see that all these machines come with this system which regulates the height of the teeth. Right now it's normal. If we move it this way, we'll see how the teeth immediately lower, and it would be for using these machines to embroider. Remember, these machines are excellent for embroidery. So we see the teeth are down. If we move it this way, the teeth will go up and they'll transport us and they'll go up a little more. So the other tip would be, in case these machines, yours, for some reason, don't have this clutch, this system to lower or raise the teeth, and we need to embroider, or we're going to start embroidering, we would simply lower the plate and disable the teeth. I mean, remove the teeth, no problem. I brought the two screws, we lower the teeth, put on the plate and start sewing or practicing. It's not necessary urgently the system only raises and lowers the teeth. So let's remember, even if we don't have this, it won't stop us from sewing and we can start without any issue. Another tip to discuss is the use of the lever. Remember that this lever helps to increase or decrease the stitch size as well as for reverse stitching. Many people don't know how to reverse stitch on this machine, so we can do it from here. Many people just push it halfway and reduce the stitch size and make it bigger at the bottom. We see it is right in the middle. It is the largest, which completely moves everything with the teeth, but if we take it to the limit, the top part will reverse and this can be used for locking the top part. Many people were unaware of this system. Let's take a closer look at it. Here we see the lever much closer. So we see the little numbers. In case they don't have the numbers, remember that at the bottom it makes the stitch much larger up to this point. In this part, it makes the stitch very small. If we raise the top part, it will make a reverse stitch, obviously if the machine has an electric motor. Remember that these machines come with a foot pedal motor, so depending on your adjustment of this part, from the middle, the central part upwards, it will make a reverse stitch, smaller or larger, but in reverse. If we press the pedal while sewing, we must do it immediately. The stitch is normal here. We need to lift it and do this. Asalientasakan suvidula forward, come backward, come and reverse. Let's see. There we have it in reverse, and see how the teeth turn backward. If we lower it, the teeth start to move normally. Well friends, that would be all for the sewing machine's optics.